for whatever reason, I mean, Gene Watson and I have been friends for 40 years or so, and he was suggesting that we come out of this break with, he goes, Yacht Rock Air Supply. All right, first of all, let me stop you right there. Air Supply doesn't deserve to be in Yacht Rock. You know how I feel about Air Supply. Cam has suggested Air Supply a couple of times, and so we can't. No, we're not. We are glad to have you with us, and I know you're not a big Air Supply fan, are you?
Not the biggest, but I do love Yacht Rock. I love me some Yacht Rock. We call our pool in the backyard the Oasis, and every night we'll put the lights on and play some good Yacht Rock, and it's about as good as it gets.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's it. Okay, I got to get your input on this. I'm sitting here at the ballpark, obviously. It's press conference and practice day here at UFCU Disch-Falk Field. Houston Christian on the field going through their workout. And, of course, they play Texas tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. And we'll have the broadcast here on 1300 The Zone. You, by now, even though you're up in the Pacific Northwest, right? Are you up
Everett, Washington, yes.
Everett, Washington, way up in the PNW. All right, so Dino's up there. And I even though you're whatever 15, 16, 2100 miles away, whatever it is, you keep up with what's going on with Longhorn baseball. So you're well aware of what happened to the center field fence, the batter's eye last night with the major storms that blew through the area, went right through central Austin, and a lot of damaging hail at times was grapefruit sized, so what happened was the center field wall blew in. Now, I had put out on Instagram a little bit of video of the crew working while the Longhorns were practicing during going through their NCAA scheduled and assigned 10 a.m. practice time. So they were on the field while the crews were out there and working on the fence and all that other kind of stuff. Someone then responded to that, showing the deal against Kansas here a year ago and saying that they had a deal, similar thing, and they got it ready before game one. All of that is true, but I should point out that last year that was only a portion, the top portion of the fence. In this case, the entire fence blew down. So they're working to get that back up, and they think they'll have it ready in time for the 1 o'clock first pitch tomorrow. My question to you, Gino, is in all your years of being around college baseball, minor league baseball, major league baseball, high school baseball, have you ever seen a deal like that where you've had an outfield fence just flat out knocked down either by collision from an outfielder or through act of God type stuff, weather related?
Well, the Rodney McCray fly ball in Louisville, probably in the late 80s, is one that everybody certainly talks about. I can tell you the top of that center field wall, Disch-Falk, took some damage when I pitched there, and Scott Bryant hit one off the top of that wall. That center field wall took a beating, but no, it's. I don't think people realize how hard and how. I mean, it's incredible that the weather brought that center field wall down because they are extremely stable, and so that speaks to the volume of the storm that hit Austin.
Yeah, like I said, you've seen some weird things. Especially we hear and see things about minor league baseball when things go a little bit crazy and a little bit haywire on that. But usually it's not necessarily weather related itself. But you've probably seen some strange things with some weather delays and some other things over the years, I would imagine.
We had a storm hit St. Louis one night. This speaks to the St. Louis Cardinal fans, who I personally believe are the best fans in baseball. We had a tornado hit downtown St. Louis one night, and it was so bad that the beer carts were flying through the concourse and striking fans. A bridge got taken out in downtown St. Louis. It was really, really a dangerous situation. And it was the last time the two teams were going to play. It was like a Thursday in September, and they had to wait it out. And they resumed play around 11:30 p.m. And when they resumed play, there wasn't an empty seat in the ballpark. I think they got the last fan out of St. Louis around 3 a.m. and the trains were shut down, and it was complete chaos. And there's actually a video of it on YouTube. But that's probably the scariest thing. I've been at a high school game where we've had to take shelter because a tornado was on the ground. That was awfully pretty scary. But no, and especially in Oklahoma City, you get all kinds of weather in Oklahoma City, I've got 1,000 stories like that. So.
Yep, absolutely. Me too. The Big 12 tournament, I remember flying in, seeing the tornado, the catastrophic one that hit Moore, Oklahoma. I was flying in and I could see it off in the distance. I landed and went straight to the hotel, and the team was down in the basement of the Skirvin Hotel. And they said, get down.
That was 2013 because my son was a freshman at Kansas.
Yeah. Scary stuff there.
Yeah.
As we visit with Gene Watson talking Major League Baseball. Okay. Since I mentioned the word catastrophic, let's talk about injuries, because you've said it. You've been able to bang the drum on this thing about injuries and the constant quest for velo and all this kind of stuff. So it looks like the latest victim is Ronel Blanco from the Astros. He's going to have Tommy John surgery on the right elbow next week. He's going to be out for the rest of the 2025 season. 3-4 and a 4.10 ERA at the time. Here's my question to you, Gino, because like you said, you're preaching to the choir, and we've talked about this at length. But here's my question: at what level? I guess whether it's front office or the managerialship, at what level does someone step in and say the losses are too great? The Dodgers have 14 pitchers on the injured list right now. 14 guys on the IL. All of them are pitchers right now. There's other teams that have a ton of guys on the injured list right now. Do you see anything on the horizon where the leadership of Major League Baseball will step in and say, we got to do something about this. We need to examine how we're preparing these pitchers for what's going on? I don't even know what the answer is, but can you see any situation where they would consider something like that?
I think there's constant dialogue. And AJ Smith-Schroeder went down for the Atlanta Braves today, arguably their number one pitching prospect, and he went down today with a pop in his elbow. So I think there's constant dialogue. I think at the professional level, you have more, and we've said it 1,000 times, more information, more sports science, more everything. I think the real disconnect, and I've said this 1,000 times before, is at our youth levels and the quest for that weekend trophy, that weekend ring, that weekend ranking. I think we're just destroying our young pitchers at the youth level. And then you get into high school. 80% of the dropout of the game is between ages of 12 and 14. Then you get into high school, and that's when the real quest for velocity begins. And I just think that parents are willing to put it on the line and take the risk for their player to have a chance to garner that Division I scholarship or that professional contract, and they're going to do whatever it takes, and they're going to listen to what are the so-called experts in chasing velocity when it's so much more than velocity. It's so much more than pitch shape, pitch design. It's the ability to control the running game, throw a breaking ball for a strike, all of those things, competitiveness, all of those things. But we've just created such a blanket of the chase for velocity that I don't know what's going to happen to put the toothpaste back in the tube. There have been pitching initiatives placed by USA Baseball and Major League Baseball, and I think we're doing a better job. But literally, we've had players in the last week that have taken their outs that we have re-signed back because we've taken injuries over the last week. And it's not even June 1st yet. As we get into June 15th, July 1st at the major league level, you're going to see the numbers even go higher. And then when you take the number of pitching injuries that take place at the major league level, and then you supplement that with a limitation of the number of players you can have in the minor leagues at 165, and then you throw in the fact that if you sign a player from independent leagues, you're having to buy that player out of the independent leagues. It's just a broken system. It just doesn't work. And the demand is always going to be so much greater than the supply. And I would encourage every young pitcher to just keep competing, keep getting a little better, because the game needs you right now.
Interesting. Talking baseball with Gene Watson from the Chicago White Sox front office here on 1300 The Zone. Let me shift gears on you here. This is something else that I know you'd have a real interesting take on. I was talking about Texas softball winning today in Oklahoma City. They're in the winner's bracket. They'll play the winner of the Oklahoma-Tennessee game, which is going to the bottom of the fifth with Tennessee leading 3-1 in that one. So there's that. Look across the street at McCombs Field, where the UIL state softball tournament's going on. There are fans wrapped around the stadium. They're waiting to get in for the next session. There's obviously great interest in that. And then I saw a story from Jeff Passan today that said that Major League Baseball is purchasing an equity stake in the Athletes Unlimited Softball League, the AUSL, partnering with this league that's preparing for its first 4-team season and plans to expand in future years. And as Jeff Passan points out, with women's sports revenues now in excess of $1 billion per year, having MLB helps establish the AUSL as a viable long-term entity in a sport that has seen multiple professional leagues fold. There's been leagues come and leagues go. So I would imagine, having the equity stake coming from MLB, it would be really, really critical to this latest attempt at trying to make sure that professional softball, Major League softball, makes it at the next level.
Well, I want to say Kim Ng is also the commissioner of that league.
Yes.
And Kim is she's unbelievable. She was the first woman general manager in Major League Baseball. I don't think there's been a day in our game, in my time in the game, where a hire was celebrated more than when Kim was named general manager. Just a wonderful, wonderful human being and an incredible baseball mind. And, Major League Baseball is a $13 billion industry. And when you look across the landscape at what the WNBA has been, it's right on time. It's perfect. And there's never been more interest in women's softball than right now. And so it's unfortunate that the Jenny Finches and the Kat Ostermans didn't get the same opportunities that these young ladies are going to get, but they paved the way for it. And they're certainly going to have a big voice in how the league is run, I'm sure. But it's just time now. Our society is spread so differently now, and women's softball is so popular, and the players are so talented that to have a $13 billion industry behind it is certainly very beneficial. And I think when you look at the success of the WNBA and how it's growing, I think it's right on time and just a great move.
Yeah, the timing, you're right. I think the timing's really good because the WNBA has never, ever been as popular as it is right now. It's made a big thing. All right, before we get done, I read yesterday a mock draft, and I was chuckling as I was looking down a mock draft, and I think every one of the players that I saw listed in the top 10 were players that you had talked about at some point or had seen, including the 3 young men from Oklahoma that we pointed out, with Kyson Witherspoon, the Oklahoma pitcher, and then, of course, the 2 outstanding high school players, with Ethan Holiday expected to go number 1 overall to the Nationals. In seeing that, in seeing that, as you are now down inside of 30 days to the draft itself, what's going on from here until you get to draft day itself, Gino, for the major league clubs?
Well, you've got you've got the regional starting this weekend, which every team's going to have all their scouts covering that. What makes it so unique this year is once you get past the top 3 picks in the draft, it's really, there's not a great deal of separation. So, you've got X amount of dollars to spend in your pool in the first 10 rounds. And so I think teams are going to be going, okay, at number 10, for instance, we pick at 10. Okay, at 10, we can take the highest ceiling player on the board, and this is what it's going to be for our team moving forward. Or you can say, we can take, because there's not that much separation, we can take player B at a cut and take that money from the cut, and we pick at 44 also, and you see what falls back to you at 44. So you're taking your first round slot money and you're getting 2 for 1, and you're getting better player with your second pick. So I think there's going to be many discussions in the rooms about that. For instance, the Royals pick 23 and 28. So, how they spend their money is going to be important, but it's a heavy high school class. It's a heavy class of high school shortstops. I've seen them all. You could flip a coin on who's going to be the better player. Eli Willits is an outstanding player. Billy Carlson out at Corona High School, outstanding. Obviously, Ethan Holiday is probably, the crown jewel of that group. But it's just a really unique year in the draft strategy-wise. And do we take the highest ceiling player on the board and pay full freight, or do we try to spread the money through 2 or 3 picks throughout the draft? And so it's going to be, as we get closer and these regionals end and we get closer to the deadline, it's going to be interesting to see what the strategy of the clubs is.
Eugene Watson from the Chicago White Sox front office. We talk Major League Baseball with him every week on the program. Hey, Gino, have fun up there in that Pacific Northwest. Have you already been back to that original Starbucks? I know you, as much as you love Starbucks, you said you were going back down the Pike Place. Have you been down there yet?
I could sit at Pike Place all day, every day. It's just a wonderful place. And yes, I have made it down there.
Okay. Hey, Gino, thanks, man. We'll talk next week.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.